Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SOP. I'm happy to have you on the 5th episode of the Soul Original Podcast. It's the 5th episode, right? Yeah, the 5th. So today's guest is Chris Ortiz. I can't wait for you to hear about all what he is doing with D2X and how he's building homes and housing solutions for underserved communities. It's amazing. I actually, this is my first time even talking with Chris, meeting Chris. He's an awesome guy, so check out all he's doing. Also, wanted to jump on here real quick and tell you that, I don't know if you're watching this on YouTube, but this podcast is on YouTube. It's on video. It's on video on Spotify. That's a new feature with Spotify, I think the last year. Pretty crazy. But if you want to watch it on YouTube, I got some feedback. People are going like, okay, where do I find it? All right, so my YouTube channel is youtube.com/@Soul Original Media. So again, that's youtube.com/@ and then SOUL, Original Media, Soul Original Media. So you can find, all 5 episodes so far on there, and along with some of my work, some videos I've made for some clients, if you want to check that out too. So again, thanks for watching this. I'll let you get on to the episode, but also follow me on Instagram at Soul Original Media, and also leave a review. That's something I need to say every time. Please leave a review. It really helps the visibility of this podcast, and we can start climbing the charts on iTunes, on Spotify, and all those platforms. Google Podcasts. There's an endless supply of podcast platforms. I didn't know that till I started making one myself. So thanks for listening, watching, supporting, and enjoy the episode. Hello, Chris Ortiz. Welcome to the Soul Original Podcast. I never know how to jump right in, to start this thing, but here we are. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell me, and I guess the people watching, listening, kind of a little bit about yourself, and your business.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So about me, a West Coast kid, so grew up all over the West Coast of California.
Nice.
Nestled here in 2002. Yeah,
Okay.
It's 2001. Actually moved up to the greater Sacramento area from the Bay Area.
Nice.
So lived all over the West Coast.
Which part? Of the
I was in
area?
Dublin, in
Okay.
Livermore,
Gotcha.
for like 9 months. Before that,
Okay.
Seattle. Before that, Spokane. Before that, Central
Nice.
Coast. Before that, Southern California. So that's
Awesome.
why a West Coast kid. Even
Yeah.
a little stint in
You
Hawaii.
really meant all over the West Coast.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So moved up into the greater Sacramento 2001 and really started kind of sinking some roots in. The house I live in now and the city I live in is the longest I've ever lived in one house in one city.
Oh, wow.
13 years. So my kids will know a different life. They'll know one house.
Yeah.
And I knew many houses in many cities. So
Okay.
yeah.
What brought you to this area, the Sacramento region?
Family. Yeah.
Okay.
My brother moved to the Sacramento area when I was in Seattle, and my sister was in Livermore, Dublin. And so they ended up moving up here, and we all just felt comfortable. Housing prices were right, and we thought, this is a place that we could raise families. And so
Awesome.
we got a nice little family up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll ask you about D2X and what you're doing through that in a second, but what's been kind of your business journey to get there?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Business journey. So I grew up in construction. My
Okay.
parents had separated when I was young. So my father was in retail, and my mother and my stepdad in construction. So
Gotcha.
basically I had some retail experience, exposure, construction experience, exposure. Over the course of time, I went into construction, decided I didn't want to really do that for a career. And so I went into the retail space, and I ended up working in sporting goods, and then became what we call an optician, which is somebody that helps people with their eyes. They support an optometrist. And so I did that for 5 years, and then realized, having a young daughter at a young age, I wasn't going to raise my family on that type of income salary. So
Sure.
I went into banking and was a retail banker, basically became a loan officer, and basically had a couple boomerang careers in
Okay.
that process. I got to a place where I really wanted to create a customer experience that was good for the client, but a lot of services kind of fall short on that whole
Sure.
delivery of consumer experience.
Mm-hmm.
Even today,
Right.
within the business that I run today, it's like we have to ask that question: what's the customer experience?
Mm-hmm.
So from that retail mindset to the construction side, I got to a place where I just had what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how to make it happen until I would say within the last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And does that bring us to what you're doing now?
Yeah.
So what is D2X? And I guess, yeah.
What is
What is it?
D2X? What does that mean?
Yeah.
So D2X stands for what we call the Dolphin and the Daffodil in my leadership group. In short, without going down that long road, it's really where the crossroads where passion meets skill. And so everybody that we bring onto our staff, who we bring on, our objective is to help them do the job that they've been given, but help them find their place in what we would call their D2X, which is where their passion uniquely crosses with their skills, and we can help them lean into that to get them doing more of that on a regular basis. So that's what the D2X stands for. I think a lot of my history is what got me to launching D2X.
Yeah.
I'm part of a men's leadership group called F3. Shout out to F3 Nation, all my guys that are early morning workout packs, as we call them. And what we do is we work out early in the mornings, and then we go get on with our day. And so F3 stands for Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. And our business is very much aligned with F3. So in that space, my heart and burning desire was to support underserved communities. And so that's really what got us to lean into what D2X is and what our vision and our mission
Where did
is.
that heart for the underserved communities come from?
You know, we didn't have the greatest means when I was a youngster. We moved a lot, and we basically our family was, we were doing okay, but there were times where we didn't really have a roof over our head. So we actually found our ways through life. And that was part of it. And I also had people that I hung out with at a young age. One in particular that was a foster youth. And some of my friends were in the foster space. And, in 8th grade, middle school, I didn't really know what foster was, but I had friends that were foster.
Yeah.
And as I learned more about that, I was like, that's tough. Like, that was more tough than how I had it. So I started, paying attention to that kind of thing at a young age. And over time, it's just evolved into what I see today. And D2X as a vision and a mission, we build housing solutions for underserved communities. And aged out at-risk foster youth are one of those communities.
Gotcha. So is it kind of like a two-part thing where there's the housing solutions and the Dolphin to Daffodil portion? Are those two separate, or do they kind of come together?
That's the beauty. That's where they converge. So part of the D2X mission and what we do is I explain it as we're a leadership organization. We are always growing leaders because we want to get them where they want to be as a career. In addition to that, our vision is we build housing solutions for underserved communities. As we provide those communities a safe, comfortable place to live, we can also give them job opportunities, which is part of our D2X.
Yeah.
So a lot of us that work for the organization, we have a heart to teach. We have a heart to share and to grow and breathe life into others. So as we get housing for those youngsters or adults, we will find opportunities that they can go to work and they can make money working within the D2X suite of businesses that we own.
Okay. Awesome. Do you guys work with a lot of partners, or I guess how does it how do you guys make money? I guess because if they're underserved communities, I'm guessing they don't really have the funds,
right?
So like, how does that process
work? Absolutely. It's a great question. So obviously in the nonprofit space, which is a lot of what we deal with, is serving the nonprofits. We're actually in a for-profit space. So D2X is a for-profit business with a nonprofit focus to support the nonprofits.
Right.
So we actually own 51% of a construction business. And what we do is we do construction.
Cool.
We also have a cleaning business. We also have a water heater business. So we're in the plumbing business. So our objective is our team, as they start to find what their passion and their skills are, we put them into the roles to go do more of that. Okay. So we actually have a couple staff members that have been in the cleaning business. They wanted to run a cleaning business. So we pulled together and developed the cleaning business focused on the communities that we serve in so they can actually grow that business.
Yeah.
In that space, we'll be able to hire people that are in the homes to go actually do that work to hopefully inspire them to actually want to go to work, want to develop more of an opportunity for themselves, and we can plug them in to those areas. So we're a nonprofit with a for-profit social responsibility that we're trying to accomplish.
Wow, that's really cool. Seems really unique.
Yeah.
Where did, let me ask this first. Like, how do you find your team, I guess? And, is it a struggle to find the right people?
Yeah. Talent is hard to find.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. We, as I mentioned before, F3, it's a men's group.
I think I've seen a flyer somewhere.
I'm sure that you
It
probably
seems
have.
familiar. Yeah.
We're closing in on your walls. We're going to come for you pretty soon. We'll be seeing you
to
out.
join, I don't know.
We'll be seeing you out in the gloom is what we call it.
Yeah.
But anyways, but there's a female version of it. So it's called FIA, Female in Action.
Gotcha.
So we took the concept of what we're going to do at D2X and we said, anybody that's going to be in our leadership will be part of our leadership group in F3 and FIA. And that's the way that we're growing leaders is through the work, but also through the mindset of what is F3? It's fitness, fellowship, and faith. And faith is defined as what you do beyond yourself to serve. So we're open to all men. FIA is open to all women. Sure. But it's really rallying to do life beyond yourself. And that's the faith component. So that's really what we embody is how we as a collective group can go further and be stronger together in the F3 and D2X community with FIA. And that's where we find our talent. We will find talent outside of that, that will be people that do the work with us. And our objective is to teach them, train them, grow them with the hopes that they find that desire within themselves to be leaders.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I mean, yeah. You would think that, fitness, fellowship, and faith, people that are already pursuing that would be, the right fit for a team, right?
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. What is the dolphin and the daffodil, if I can ask?
Yeah, that's good.
Where
Okay,
does that come from?
So it comes from our book in F3 that's called Q Source. So Q Source is kind of like a field manual for our organization.
Okay.
F3 Nation's been around since 2011. It was launched out of North Carolina, and it's free. It's peer-led and rotating fashion. It's held outdoors, rain or shine.
Is it like once a week or?
It's every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Wow.
So this morning I went and worked out.
Sweet.
And it's from 5:15 to 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we go have coffee. Some of us have coffee, some of us go on with our day. But spent 30 minutes with some of my guys just hanging out and talking about life.
Yeah.
And then, in my case, we get our kids off to school and then we go crush it for the day. So tomorrow is Tuesday. So I'll rinse and repeat. 5:15, we go work out, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Go do coffee. So that's what we do every single day. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's where we get our crew. Dolphin and Daffodil.
Right.
Q Source is kind of our study guide, if you will. So each week we read a chapter and we kind of lean into what we're teaching. The Dolphin
you're talking about for D2X or
for
F3?
F3. Yes,
okay.
for F3.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you got it. So the best way to explain it is every human, high impact human, was created for a certain thing, right?
Yeah.
And when they're doing that thing, we call that the high impact zone. So when they're in their high impact zone, they are operating the way that their creator designed them to operate.
Yeah.
So the dolphin is like no other mammal. The dolphin swims like no other creature. And that's what uniquely the dolphin is capable of doing. And that's where that skill comes in.
Right.
So that's why we call it the dolphin, because there's no other creature that can swim like a dolphin could swim.
Right.
The daffodil, on the other hand, is more so the people that person is designed to serve. So the daffodil is it's a tender, beautiful thing, and it's the creation that we've been given to serve the population and people that we're designed to serve.
Yeah.
And so that's where that passion comes into the picture. So when you got that skill and that passion, it happens to be what we call the D2X in our vernacular, if you will. May not make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but for those F3 brothers
I
and
like
FBA
it.
sisters,
It's unique, and there's a really cool meaning behind it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's deep.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What would you say your high impact zone, you said?
Yes.
What is that for you?
Well, you probably experienced it as we came in and we were just chatting about life, right? So I grew up all over the West Coast, moving a lot. 4 different high schools my freshman year, 2 my sophomore year. So six high schools throughout my high school years. And I was...
Did you say 6?
6, yeah.
Different high schools.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in that process, you learn to meet people, and you're forced into a situation. And I think I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
Pretty confident to say. Maybe I would not have been. Maybe I would have been.
Sure.
But I'm a product of my experience. You know, my roots come from moving a lot. So for me, I always felt like to get to know people, you ask them questions. And I've always been intrigued by people's backgrounds and where they come from and what their roots are.
Right.
So I'm intrigued by people. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is helping people find and to challenge them in their daily to see, like, what is it you were called to do?
Right.
Like, what is it that you were put on earth to exercise for people and within the skills that you have? And I just love that. And I think that's what got me to doing what I do.
Yeah.
And that's what I do on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, how did you find what you were called to do? Was it through that, like, instability of just having to weed through all this change?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Was there a moment that you kind of, I don't know, where a switch was flipped or something, or when D2X was birthed or anything like that?
Definitely. There's definitely milestones, you know.
Yeah.
A lot
probably
of
several moments, right?
Several moments.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to butcher it, but Simon Sinek says, "The person that you are most uniquely designed to serve is the person that you once were."
Interesting.
And I love that, because I look at my past and I look at my history. Like, why am I so passionate?
It is so true.
Yeah. Right?
I had a thought like that this week.
Yeah.
Like, where I was sitting there listening to some speaker, and I'm actually the exact opposite probably of you.
Sure.
Like, when you said, 6 high schools in 4 years, I just thought about how fortunate, first of all, I was to have one and to not bounce around. But at the same time, I'm sure that's made you a stronger person and, like, better at getting to know people, because you have to change, like, just being better at adapting. Right. And that was something that, like, I'm an introvert, and I had, like, stability and stuff, and didn't really challenge myself too much until, like, I started my own business.
Sure.
And I really, like, I am so much better at talking to people now.
Sure.
Having a podcast when I was a kid, like, I was the shyest kid.
Yeah.
Up and through high school. So, like, I would have never thought I'd, like, have a podcast now. But now, back to my original point, like, thinking about the person I was, I now realize, like, that I'm able to help, like, kids or, introverts like me who just don't know what to say in social situations and stuff. So I think that really resounded with me. I think that's very true.
Yeah. I got to give you credit, because you took your past and you created an environment where you're operating in your high impact zone by sitting here. You say that you're an introvert, and doing what we're doing is not an introvert thing to do.
Right.
But when you're operating in what we would call your D2X, like, everything else goes to the wayside. Like, you're doing what you were called to do, and you feel alive.
Right.
And that's what it's about. And that's
Awesome.
really where we want to focus our energies. So there's somebody out there that hears you and sees you, and they're like, man, I've thought about doing a podcast, but I never thought like I could actually do it. And so you're the inspiration of actually them wanting to at least try.
Yeah.
I love
Definitely.
that.
Yeah.
Love that.
So I guess, how do you, what are some of your processes, or how do you bring that out of people, of finding what it is that they're meant to do, finding their high impact zone?
Yeah, right. I think it's just through a series of life circumstances. I get to know my team. They get to know me. I'm very transparent. Sometimes maybe too transparent, but they get to know me, and I'm authentic, and that's what matters the most.
It's huge.
Circling back to some of the youngsters that we've served. So prior to D2X, and really one stepping stone that got me to where I am today, is an organization called Dress to Soar. My good buddy Justin Studebaker, he was the visionary. He was the one that said, I have this idea, and I came along with him in his idea, and I was like, I can rally with this. And this idea was that we can teach youngsters through apparel how to carry themselves in preparation for these youngsters were on the deep end of the spectrum. So they were court appointed youngsters that basically we're in trouble with the law, and we're living in group homes. And so we had these youngsters, we were just teaching through apparel, how to showcase respect to yourself and show the judge respect by how you dressed. And in that process, we started learning that kids are hungry for information, and through style is one thing that they're very passionate about, is how they look. And once we started putting them into suits and the right apparel that fit them, it was amazing to watch them transform into somebody that's actually standing taller and feeling more confident. And in that process, I started to we started developing those relationships with youngsters and inspiring them to think outside their circumstances, and to think, hey, you too could do ultimately whatever you want. So whatever hand you were dealt, it's how you play your cards that's going to matter the most. So put a stake in the ground and let's do something with that. And you could do it with clothing as a foundation to start. And so that was very transformative in my approach to what got me to D2X, and helping find people and just ignite that little fire in them to lean into it a little bit so they can find that passion of their own.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. That was like kind of like an entry point, because that's something small but also really important, how you dress and present yourself. But I'm sure it opens the door once they see, like, how important that is, how important all the other things are too. And we had Justin on the podcast in here, so if you're listening to this, that's episode 2.
There you go. Number 2. That's awesome. What up, Justin?
If he's listening, what up Justin? Awesome. So what are you thinking for the future? And I mean, D2X is still pretty young, right?
Very young.
Yeah. So I guess what's your vision for the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's good. The problem that we see in D2X in the community of people and nonprofits.
Let me check on something.
Yep, no problem. Okay. You good?
We're good.
All right. The problem that we see within D2X and the communities that we serve in the nonprofit space is there's a housing crisis for underserved communities. There's a housing crisis in general, especially in California, but the underserved communities are really pressed. So we believe we can create opportunities for underserved communities to live in homes that that investors and property owners would be willing to provide as a service for them to be able to rent from those communities. And it's all interesting, but ultimately what we're developing the relationships for the nonprofits to be able to live in those homes, renting from the property owners and the investors. D2X as a corporation we're facilitating those relationships because we know a lot of those nonprofits because we do business and serve those nonprofits regularly.
Right.
We own a construction company with multiple trades in that space. So we can actually not only go build the homes, but we can seek the investors that want an investment that can create the homes for the underserved communities.
Yeah.
And we can do the rehabilitation, we could do the work, we could help facilitate maintenance on the homes for those houses. On the flip side of that, as we develop these opportunities and we're putting youngsters in the homes, we can give them job opportunities within the lines of businesses that we actually own. Mm-hmm. So what we have is we actually have an ecosystem of for-profit in a nonprofit space where we're actually providing the social service while serving the youngsters, teaching them the trades, because the biggest gap that we have right now is how much we've crammed, go to school, get an education, get a good job, and you'll make it. And what's suffered is the trades. You can make great money in the trades. And what we're trying to say is, let's teach youngsters how to go do the work in the trades to make a really good living. And if you want to do it with us, we'd love to teach you, bring you on board, and let's go make it happen. And we believe that investors are bought into that mindset. And it's not at the capitalist growth of just let's go crush it, but what's the social capital that we can provide to these youngsters and give them a future and create an ecosystem that pulls it all together and build it in a meaningful way. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. It seems like you guys are, well connected. It seems like you have to be, to grow. It seems like you guys have your hands in a lot of pies in a sense, but it is all kind of one. It all works together, like you said, an ecosystem, right?
Yeah, it's collaborations.
Yeah.
We can do more together than we can as individuals. And I just happen to be a guy that had an experience of life that got me to where I'm at. And it is the people around me that actually make this stuff happen. And I got to thank my partner, Jay Panos, who's the contractor that saw the vision, and he was all in. He basically just said, let's go. Yeah. And if it weren't for him, I'm not sitting here today.
Right. Well, that's cool. I had a thought, like when you speak to these investors, like you said, like it can't just be, you can't just show them an opportunity to make money. And I'm sure you're not really looking for those investors too. I mean, don't you want them bought into the purpose of serving these underserved communities? So what is that like? That seeing your personality, it seems like something you'd be good at, kind of sharing your heart behind it and stuff. But how do you kind of balance that when looking for investors?
Yeah, I think it's going to be in the pitch. And so we're pitching to investors now, and they're looking at our presentations and they're saying, okay, this is great. I think you could do more of this. And, we have 3 different types of investors that we're looking at. So it really does matter what type of investor we're looking at. And it's important that we find the right investors. If we're looking for somebody they just want to make money for their trust so they can build their family's legacy out, that's probably not the right fit for us. We're more likely aligned with the people that have this, like, there's a social responsibility that I have. And I want to exercise my skills and abilities to help those that can't help themselves. Aged out, at-risk foster youth, adults with disabilities specific to those on the spectrum of autism, veterans with PTSD that just can't get their own feet under them, and seniors. Like, each of those categories are super vulnerable. And we feel with our servant's heart, our servant leadership, we could help them. And I feel through capitalism, we can create the opportunities to do really well and to provide for our families, yet also be able to provide housing for those vulnerable communities that I just mentioned. And it's those investors that have that social, I want to do something. Those are the ones that we're looking for. And we do see on a regular basis, like, I have a whole portfolio, but I feel like I could be doing more. What could I be doing? And that's where we come into the picture to be able to continue doing that more, but also do it with a social mindset.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I would think, for the right investor, it's even more of an incentive, because they're going to be making a difference.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be helping people, like you said.
Right.
You know, veterans, you know, the elderly,
Yep.
And the poor. You know, I would think that would be, you know, a draw for a lot of people
Yeah,
too.
I agree.
So,
You could even say, even in the veteran space, for the men and women that served our country, I think a lot of them feel like they have something to give back too. Like it's
Yeah.
not just all for naught. It's like they didn't put their time and energy in just to get to where they're at. I believe they want to breathe life into the youngsters as well. And so we're just trying to find those synergies. What could that look like?
okay.
While we're focused on the housing for those specific personas, if you will, the housing will be for that particular persona. But if we have a veteran that wants to be able to stand up and do what's right to help protect and to provide, we want to find those opportunities. And that's where that D2X comes back into the picture.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Is there anything else you would like to share? We're coming up against 30 minutes here. Like I said, it goes by
Time flies.
quick. But yeah.
I'd say thanks to you. I love what you're doing. You know,
Thanks.
is this episode number 3?
This is 5.
5?
Yeah.
Oh, you're blazing. I love it.
I know.
I love episode 5. So thank you for that. You know, again, I'm a dude that's just trying to see what I can do to help make an impact, but you're the guy that's helping tell the story and to get that voice out there. So I want to say thank you for inviting me in.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. Where can people find you and how can they get involved?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. So my name's Chris Ortiz with D2X Inc. Our website is not even up and running yet. We're still working on the logo. So we actually launched in April 2023. So we're still pretty new.
Yeah.
But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm a loan officer by trade, so I still have the ability to write loans and whatnot. But LinkedIn, you can find me on Facebook. It's under Guild Mortgage or Chris Ortiz. Or you could send me an email at my F3 name, which is Huggies, like the diaper. So huggies@d2xinc.com.
And I'd like to hear the story behind that name, but maybe I'll ask you offline.
Yeah, that one we have to do at a workout because that stays in the circle of trust.
Gotcha. Well, I guess I got to go.
There we go. I got it on record right here.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on again, Chris. And have a great rest of your day. And everybody else, see you in the next one.
Thanks for having me.